very much. Please be seated. Once again, I welcome you all to this event to set the tone and the protocol for today. Permits me to make welcome, first and foremost, our chief host for today, the President and Chairman of Council, Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, Otumba Adetunji Oyubanji, CIoD. You're most welcome, sir. Thank you very much. We have our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Sami Owoshile, the Managing Director of Construct Green Consult LLC. You're most welcome, sir. So I think we're still expecting him. He'll be with us shortly. We also want to welcome the Chairman, ESG and Sustainability Committee, Prince Abimbola Olashore, FCIOD. We welcome members of the Governing Council, past presidents and esteemed elders of our great institutes, fellows and members of the CIoD Nigeria, some of which are joining us online, members of the ESG and Sustainability Committee. We also want to make welcome Director General and CEO, Dr. Taiwo Nolas Alausa, MCIOD. Okay, so we also welcome our valued partners and sponsors for today. We have Beja Paints Nigeria and Segilola Resources Operations Limited. Thank you very much for sponsoring us. We welcome our C-suite executives, captains of industries, and governance leaders who are here present, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, our moderator, the distinguished Mrs. Ilda, who will be doing justice, moderating today's session. I also want to make welcome our other panelists who I'll be introducing much later and reading out their bios just to save time. Members of the general public, you're all welcome. Gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you're all most welcome. Thank you very much for being with us. So we'll be taking a few goodwill messages today. We have, first and foremost, we have Mrs. Oreva Atanya, the Director of LBS Sustainability Center. I don't know if you're here, madam. We're expecting you earlier. She's not yet here. She's joining us online. Are we ready to take her? Okay. So we hand over to you, madam, for your goodwill message. Please take it away.
Good morning. I hope you can hear and see me.
Okay, we can see you now. Please go ahead, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you greetings from the Dean of Lagos Business School, Professor Olayinka David West, and the Management Board and Community at our institution. It is my great pleasure to be present virtually at this 2026 Chartered Institute of Directors ESG and Sustainability Roundtable. This convening really demonstrates the institution's commitment to shaping a future where corporate governance for business success also enables social equity and environmental stewardship. It's interesting that this important forum is taking place a day after the 2026 World Earth Day, which was themed Our Power, Our Planet. Today, we stand at the intersection of reflection around action and potential, recognizing that the health of our planet and the prosperity of our communities are heavily dependent on the actions of leaders in different spheres. So the dual focus of today's events underscores the fundamental truth that sustainable development, institutional resilience, and responsible economic growth are not just aspirations, but they should be imperatives that demand our collective leadership and unwavering commitments in whatever spheres of influence we sit in oversight, in direct management, and also in terms of inspiring others. The theme of this year's roundtable, Strengthening ESG and Leadership to Advance Sustainable Development, Institutional Resilience, and Responsible Economic Growth, brings to the fore both the challenges that we face, but also highlights the opportunities for transformative impacts. As partners of this great institute, Lagos Business School We would like to commend you for the vision. Thank you very much to the council, the executing team, and particularly want to congratulate the ESG and Sustainability Committee for convening us today. So dear directors and participants, I urge you to embrace this moment as a call to action and to lead with integrity, to innovate with purpose, and to let the deliverables from today's discourse also challenge us to go out and also make changes in the status quo, commit to measurable actions, and to strengthen our leadership practice, board effectiveness, and ethical conduct for sustainable development outcomes, especially through enterprise. Thank you very much, and I wish you a beautiful engagement today.
Thank you very much, madam. So we'll move swiftly to another goodwill message. We'll be taking one from Mr. Stanley Anidosa, FCA. He's the Head Directorate of Inspection and Monitoring. He'll be representing the CEO of the Financial Reporting Council, FRC. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, and thank you very much. It's an honor to represent the Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council, who is unavoidably absent at this event. He has asked me to convey his goodwill message on this occasion. So permit me to go through the message. It is a pleasure to be part of this ESG and Sustainability Roundtable, and I bring warm greetings from the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Let me begin by commending the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria for convening this important engagement and for the thoughtful choice of the team, strengthening ESG leadership to advance sustainable development, institutional resilience, and responsible economic growth. This theme is both timely and forward-looking, particularly in the context of today's dynamic global and domestic economic environment. Across the world, there is a clear and accelerating shift in how organizations define value. Beyond financial performance, increasing attention is now being placed on how organizations manage environmental impacts, social responsibility, and governance structures. ESG has therefore evolved from a peripheral consideration into a central pillar of corporate strategy, risk management, and long-term sustainability. For Nigeria, this shift presents both an opportunity and a responsibility. The opportunity lies in positioning our institutions and markets to attract sustainable investment, enhance competitiveness, and drive inclusive growth. This responsibility lies in ensuring that our systems, frameworks, and leadership practices are robust enough to support credible and consistent ESG implementation. A key element in this transformation is reporting. High quality, reliable, and decision useful information remains the foundation upon which trust is built. As global standards continue to evolve, particularly with the emergence of the IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards, there is growing expectation for greater consistency, comparability, and transparency in sustainability reporting. In this regard, the role of regulators, standard setters, and professional bodies becomes increasingly critical. At the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, we are committed to strengthening the financial reporting ecosystem, promoting sound corporate governance, and supporting the development of sustainability reporting frameworks that aligns with global best practices while reflecting local realities. However, it's important to emphasize that the success of ESG integration will not be driven by regulations alone. It will require strong leadership at the board and the executive levels, a clear alignment between sustainability objectives and business strategy, and a deliberate effort to embed ESG considerations into organizational culture and decision-making processes. It will also require collaboration. No single institution can drive this transformation in isolation. Meaningful progress will depend on coordinated efforts among regulators, corporates, investors, academia, and even the professional bodies. Platforms such as this roundtable are therefore essential not just for dialogue, but for shaping practical and actionable pathways for implementation. As we commemorate global sustainability efforts, including the broader objectives reflected around this period, it is important that discussions such as this move beyond commitments to concrete actions. The focus must increasingly be on execution, on building systems, strengthening institutions, and delivering measurable outcomes. I therefore urge all participants to engage actively, share insights, and contribute to the development of solutions that will advance ESG leadership, strengthen institutional resilience, and support responsible economic growth in Nigeria. With the right leadership, commitment, and collaboration, there is no doubt that Nigeria can leverage ESG as a catalyst for sustainable development and long-term prosperity. I wish you all fruitful deliberations and a successful roundtable. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, once again, thank you very much, Mr. Stanley Aniago Aose, FCF. I hope I didn't murder your surname. Apologies, please. All right, so to open today's roundtable event, I'll be calling on our chief host, our president and chairman of Governing Council, Otumba Adetunji Oyebanji, CIoD. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I, as usual, have a prepared speech which I'm mandated to go through. As I always tell my colleagues in the institute, if I don't read the speeches that have been prepared for me, I'm risking impeachment. So I will do the needful. Our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Somi Olowoshile, Managing Director, Construct Green Consult LLC. Distinguished members of the Governing Council, I understand our first Vice President, Mrs. Amina Oyagbola, FCIoD, is online. The ESG and Sustainability Committee, ably chaired by Prince Abimbola Olashere, FCIoD, esteemed fellows, members of the Institute, our esteemed panel discussants, Dr. Ini Abimbola, DBA, MCIOD, Vice President, Sustainability Professionals Institute of Nigeria, Ms. Tinu Ade Awe, MCIOD, Chief Executive Officer of TMSN Limited, and erstwhile Guru of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Good to see you. Mr. Benson Onwusa, Country Sustainability Lead, Segilola Resources Operating Limited. Those are the gold people, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe we'll have some gold distributed to us before we leave. The Director, LBS Sustainability Center, Mrs. Oreva Ataya. Our call to action speaker, Dr. Oluwa Soromidayo George, MCIOD, Director, Corporate Affairs and Sustainability, Coca-Cola HBC. Our distinguished moderator and my former Oga, Mrs. Hilda Nko, MBA, ACIS, FNIM, MCIOD, Principal Consultant, Chief Executive Officer of HNC Professional Services Limited, and my former CEO at the Society of Corporate Governance Nigeria, where I had the privilege to serve on the board for 11 years. Our anchor, our indefatigable Mrs. Folashade Akimushire, MCIOD, Group Company Secretary, Nest Oil Limited, esteemed regulators, policymakers, sustainability practitioners, industry experts, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my distinct honor to welcome you all to this high-level ESG and Sustainability Roundtable. We gather here today under the auspices of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria to address a theme of peripheral concern, but a fundamental necessity for the survival and success of the modern enterprise. Sustainability, environmental, social, and governance considerations are reshaping the global economic landscape. For directors and senior executives, these are no longer elective, feel-good initiatives. They have evolved into core fiduciary responsibilities. They are integral to our strategic decision-making, our risk management systems, and our ultimate commitment to preserving long-term stakeholder value. In Nigeria, we are navigating an environment of immense complexity. We are witnessing a convergence of evolving regulatory reforms, climate-related risks, and rising social inclusion imperatives. Stakeholders, investors, and local communities increasingly expect responsible corporate citizenship in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. However, we must be candid about the current state of play. Despite a growing awareness, significant gaps remain between policy intent and institutional practice. All too often, ESG is treated as a checkbox for compliance or a reporting obligation rather than being embedded as a strategic driver of resilience, innovation, and growth. Strengthening ESG leadership is the only way to bridge this gap. To guide us through these complexities, we are privileged to have a true luminary as our keynote speaker. Dr. Somi Olowoshile, who is globally recognized sustainable professional and a dedicated green ambassador, to discuss today's theme, strengthening ESG leadership to advance sustainable development, institutional resilience, and responsible economic growth. It is my belief that he will do exceptional justice to today's theme because he has consistently demonstrated how to translate abstract sustainability commitments into measurable outcomes. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the era of ESG as a compliance burden is over. Today, we should embrace it as a strategic imperative for institutional resilience and responsible economic growth. The outcome of today's deliberations will not merely end in a report. We aim to produce a structured communique to guide ESG policy across national and sub-national jurisdictions, and a clear roadmap for adopting high-impact sustainability standards in Nigeria. I encourage you all to engage vigorously in the moderated panel discussions, share your feedback, and commit to the call to action that will conclude our day. Let us co-create the strategies that will define the future of Nigerian businesses. It is now my singular pleasure to formally declare this Sustainability and ESG Roundtable open. Thank you, and I wish you all a most productive session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for reading out your well-curated speech by the Secretariat, our very able Secretariat. Thank you very much. So to set the tone for today's discussion, I'll be introducing Dr. Somi Olowoshile. I'll be reading out your short profile before you join us, and then, of course, do justice to today's discussion. Thank you very much, everyone. So Dr. Somi Olowoshile is a seasoned sustainability professional, a green ambassador, and a climate expert with extensive experience in sustainable development, ESG, and green building practices. He's a lead of cities and communities professional, a DGNB international consultant, a DGNB ESG manager, and a MEP cost expert with deep expertise in climate and carbon management. So that goes to show that we're really excited, and we know that we're going to be getting deep insights on how we're going to move from policy to actually making impact as directors and professionals. Thank you very much. He is the founder and chairman of a Sustainable Green Environment Initiative, and he currently serves as managing director of Construct Green Consult LLC. His global engagements, including serving as Nigeria country director for the Foundation of Climate Restoration USA, advisor to Source to Source Incorporation Canada, and advisory board member at Updat ESG Tech Company in India. He's also a key partner in global sustainable initiatives, including the UN LIFE program. Dr. Somi holds a bachelor's and master's degree in quantity surveyor from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, a doctorate in sustainable growth, and is also an ISO certified and has published research on sustainable construction. He's a fellow of the African Network of Green Ambassadors. He has led initiatives impacting over 500 young professionals across 28 African countries. His recognitions include the FOIA Awards, Top Socialpreneur Award 2021, and a Merit Award from the Sokoto State Ministry of Works and Transportation. Thank you very much. Can we all just give him a round of applause? It deserves it.
Thank you so very much for having me today. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, the Governing Council of CIoD, member of Governing Council of CIoD, distinguished speakers here present today, fellows of the Institute, I greet you. Distinguished members of the Institute, I greet you as well. Distinguished moderator and organizers of this event, I give a big round of applause to you. Distinguished staff of CIoD, thank you. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my humble honor to be present here this morning to have conversations about ESG. And the topical issue is strengthening ESG leadership to advance sustainable development, institutional resilience, and responsible economic growth. Rather than just have a keynote speech, what I've kind of done this morning is to just have a walkthrough on the topical issue that we have. And I don't know if my presentation could be shared as well, so we could come along with me. So what we're going to be discussing this morning is about ESG and how to integrate this into our corporate space. Rather than just have it as a buzzword, we're moving from ESG to how it can strategically position our businesses, our companies and corporations to be able to fly high. Okay, thank you. To be able to fly high, both locally and of course internationally. ESG is no longer a new word. Everybody understands what ESG is. But just to begin, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, right? And it is the framework that is being used by investors, businesses, to be able to measure their company's sustainability, ethical impact, to measure their both financial performance, risk management, and everything around governance, to be able to structure their businesses to perform beautifully well, right? It is more like a scorecard. So if you're looking at ESG, just picture your mind and see if it is a scorecard to evaluate how a company moves from being a steward of nature to be able to manage relationships both internally and externally within that corporation, and of course how that corporation itself will be able to govern itself. Of course, every corporation business is hinged on the aspect of profit and economic buoyancy, which is very important. Now, when we look at ESG, which of course extends to an arm of sustainability, right? To be able to picture it properly, the image that you have there just directly speaks to what it is all about. It's talking about we as human beings being on earth, right? We are in here on earth and we are here to thrive. We are here to live. However, while we are living, there are some certain things that we do as individuals. There are some actions that we put forward as individuals. Now, ESG and sustainability altogether is looking at these different actions that we put together as humans and how this action will directly or indirectly affect us as human beings. So ESG and sustainability is putting the people right in the center of any form of decision making that we want to make on earth. And that's exactly what it is. So we're looking at it from different hands, from economic side, from social side, from governance side, of course, from economic side as well. So that's what this pictorial view is trying to represent. You see the people and well-being, you see human rights and inclusion, you see responsible governance, climate, environment, community and shared value, and of course economic value and profitability, all coming together by a singular organization and putting the people in the center as to, if we do this, what's the impact, or if we do the other opposite, what's the impact on the people. Having that kind of understanding, we will now talk about it from the aspect of the executives that actually give the shots in different businesses, corporations, and institutions in which we find ourselves. And that's what we're talking about today. Board leadership is non-negotiable, and of course, the execution of ESG and sustainability have to start at the top. Oversight drives, and I would like to mention at this point that I have created this abridged version of the presentation because of a time limit. However, there is a more broader insights presentation that I have shared that could also be shared with everyone after this event, right? So now, just looking at it briskly, it's talking about what it is important for the board members of every organization to look at in terms of playing in the ESG space, right? The first thing is how to be able to define ESG ambition and approve material issues that prioritizes at different strategic level. So that organization will not be able to incorporate in its entirety if the board does not set the direction. So it does not come from the bottom, it comes from the top. So that direction needs to be set by the board. And the second one is that the board needs to demand accountability. That's very important. We need to require some level of executive reporting that shows the measurable targets and the measurable impact that at board level you can now review and now say, oh, we've been able to achieve 1, 2, 3, and 4 as to some of the goals that we want to achieve. Then the third one is that the board need to own the risk register. It's important that the board have an overview and ensure that ESG risk appears along the financial side of impact for the organization, the operational side, and of course the regulatory risk as well. If all of this is missed out in one way or another, there is a tendency that that corporation, company, or business will be at jeopardy. And we will see that as we go along. Then the fourth one that I put here is linked to incentives. So now we've always had the buzzword ESG and sustainability, and there is always something that comes along with it. A lot of individuals believe, or a lot of businesses always believe that if I want to imbibe sustainability practices or ESG metrics alongside with my businesses, it is going to be expensive. I mean, that's one myth. We'll look at some few myths as well as we go along, but that's one major myth. However, it is not. ESG is just talking about you as an organization looking at exactly what you do and the metrics that measure your impact to be able to scale as an organization while you are not impacting the environment. The social impact altogether within your organization is also up to par. And of course, there is a proper governance structure that you have put in place. And that's the only way any business, corporation can scale. And that's exactly what ESG is talking about. Now, ESG is now the scorecard that shows you that playbook. Organizations do that. Majority of organizations actually have an element of ESG metrics that they are already undertaking. But ESG in itself is now that scoreboard where you'll be able to now measure the impact of different things that you're carrying out in your organization. Then we look at the key global ESG trend and their implication for Nigerian businesses. This is very important, especially at board level, right? There are different things that drive organizations. And one of it is how the future is going to play the markets you are playing today, right? You're projecting towards the future of you're in the market today, but you're looking into the future and looking at what will happen within the next 10 years. You're also looking at things that can happen in the space that you play that can actually disrupt your business. Things around maybe government policy, international policy, sanctions, and all of that. You're looking at all of that, and because it could also hamper, in fact, in some cases, we have cases of businesses that have been completely disrupted and they've gone into extinction because of issues like this, global trends, and they went into extinction because they did not plan and fortify themselves for the future. That's what ESG is talking about. Now, climate disclosure. We have international treaties. UNFCCC is one. There is Paris Agreement. There's Kyoto Protocol. We've got a lot of different treaties internationally that speaks directly to how different nations across the world had come together to have a one voice on how we want to play in terms of climate. It is no more gainsaying. I think about 8 years ago or thereabout, when we're starting Sustainable Green Environment Initiative, and it was just still at the infancy level. When I have conversations about green sustainability with people, a lot of people are like, Mr. Green, what are you talking about? I mean, nobody even kind of can comprehend it into details. But fast forward to today, before you even mention ESG and sustainability, everybody already understands what you're talking about. And before we even talk about whether we understand it or not, immediately we get out of this room and step outside here. By the time it's around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, we understand what we're talking about. Because the heat and the impact of the climate in our environment today is no longer the same. Back in the days and now, if we compare it, it's no longer the same. And we begin to wonder what is going on. Then there is a problem with our climate, and we need to address it. And beyond just addressing it as an individual, the government has come together at an international level to come and make a treaty and say that we are not going to go below 1.5 degree temperatures level in terms of global temperature threshold. Now, before we be able to achieve that, every nationals need to be able to commit to say at so level, this is what I will do. And that also trickle down to what policy individual nations will now begin to spring out. If you look at the likes of Nigeria, Nigeria has signed a pact to the NDC, National Determined Contribution, right? And this automatically means that the government needs to start putting out policies in place that drives the interest of we the people towards sustainability initiatives, towards being sustainable, being responsible in terms of our consumption, in terms of our action, deeds, and of course, everything that we carry out, both as an individual and as an organization. And that's exactly what this is talking about. So now, the ideology is that whilst it's coming at the international level, it's also trickling down to the national level. Then we begin to have it at state level. Then we begin to have it at organizational level. So today, what conversation we're having now is about the organization and how organization can begin to see these signals and understand that it is important for them to be able to position properly, rather than become hit by some of the impact that will come when all of these policies are now in place. They have already positioned themselves well enough to be able to get more gains from the shift from an unsustainable action to a sustainable action. And some of those things revolves around the energy transition plan that has been signed to pact by Nigeria, right? Now, that has trickled down to custom duties. And we are aware that now Nigeria is going to be placing more tariff on fossil fuel vehicles, while renewable vehicles, that's EVs, are going to be on rebates. You definitely need not to pay tax, right? This is some level of incentives that will also allow people to begin to change the action and the way they see things and what they want to buy with their money, right? And we have it also in tax reform. There are a couple of different rebates that speaks directly to ESG and sustainability initiatives, and you can easily, as corporation, get incentives from the government if you begin to put in these actions. And when you put in these actions, it simply means that you are going to get more gain. Energy transition plan, for an example, more gain in the sense that I would cite an example here. I was with I was with the managing director of Coleman in one speaking engagement in Landmark sometimes last month, I believe. And he was talking about what they did in their own energy transition plan. And it's a very beautiful example that we can use in Nigeria today, right? They were consuming quite a number of energy. And what they thought to do was that there was renewable energy which they could use. So they decided to install solar panels and get solar to augment their energy. But lo and behold, they actually installed capacity beyond what they needed. So what happened at the end of the day is that they now add more than enough megawatts of electricity that is just sitting down in their yard that is untapped. And because of the regulation of Nigeria, they couldn't sell it out to other businesses. So they had to create another business and call it Coleman Power, so that they will be able to now turn that to another form of business, while their own business does not have to suffer what we are suffering with electricity tariff and electricity bill today. So they are getting electricity free. At the same time, they are still making more money. So this is about the business decision by the board, having the understanding that you can actually tap into gains rather than see it as burdensome. That when you're talking ESG, you're talking sustainability, is going to take more money. Rather than that, you are going to tap into it and benefit from it, right? Then we talk about sustainable financing. There are several financing now. Even today as we speak, Nigeria is struggling to get international financing. And that is why it was very important for Nigeria to start aligning majority of its policies to ESG and sustainability initiatives. And by the advent in 2021 of the Climate Change Act, the NCCC that was created under the Federal Ministry of Environment, and majority of the act and tax reform, the reforms and everything that is in place now, it's easier to be able to drive in direct investment and funding, because majority of this funding that are internationally based are now completely hinged on sustainability. And that also trickles down to majority of financial institutions. I was talking with one mainstream bank sustainability team members very recently, and they were talking about having consulted KPMG, I believe, to be able to align them properly so that they can tap into a particular international fund. So the only financial institution that have been able to tap into it in Nigeria today is AADC or thereabout. So they were looking into how they can also tap into that fund. And so to say, their worry was that this funding are there. They've already incorporated, or they have already commissioned a major consultant to help them tap into all of this funding. But their worry was, even if the funding comes and it sits in their yard, majority of businesses are not even ready to be able to tap into this funding because majority are not aligned. And this funding comes with a very serious rebate in terms of interest. Some are even interest-free loans that you can use to run your business and pay back. Some comes with a very low digit as to 2% and thereabouts that you can use as businesses. So if you do not properly align, how do you want to tap into sustainable financing and begin to grow and scale at the scale at which you want to scale? Then we'll talk about supply chain transparency. And supply chain transparency is also one critical thing, because Nigeria now, I think we're beginning to see a little bit of transitioning in what we used to do and what it is today, right? We used to be an import-dependent country, but I think things are beginning to change bit by bit. We're beginning to see few bit of some of our raw materials being turned into things that we can also export, especially when we look at it from an agricultural perspective, right? And some of these people play at the European markets. Some play at the US markets. Some send it to China. EU taxonomy, for example, has limited a lot of people to be able to export to those countries. So you find that you are playing as a corporation, you are playing as a business, but you are limited maybe to African markets, because you have not properly aligned your business to be able to align with ESRS or IFRS or CDP, climate disclosure, or majority of this framework and international standards on sustainability. And it doesn't even cost you too much money to be able to align. All you just need is set the criteria, set your ESG metrics, and begin to track them and follow them, measure them, and report on them. It's that simple. So some of these actions, some organizations are already carrying them out. But you just need to properly align them and report them properly so that this becomes a tool that you can use to be able to scale your company at large. Then we'll talk about the aspect of social and human rights, governance and ethics, and of course, resource efficiency. And I've been able to come into the implication for Nigerian businesses from that perspective, right? Automatically, once you're able to track, improve efficiency, and prepare for climate risk, your business is operational ready to be able to scale, right? Then the capital access, which I've talked about, the market access, trust, and stability, especially for international markets where you are also intending to go play. And then we go to about the myth. Yeah, we're almost rounding up. We go about the myth holding leaders back. I've talked about one. Another one is the fact that ESG is just reporting. A lot of people believe that it's just about reporting, nothing different. Just get somebody to do it. In fact, some organizations, we have to consult a consultant to come and write the ESG report for them. And they don't even have the data in-house in which the consultant wants to come and track. And it's very heavily dependent on data, right? So if you don't have an in-house measure by which you can actually put all of this data into place, reporting becomes a very difficult thing. But reporting is just the output of what ESG is all about, right? The reality is that ESG is the strategic operating model for your business, looking at it from every different angles, right? Then another myth is the fact that only large corporations or companies need ESG, but that's actually a myth. The reality is that capital providers, venture capitalists today, before they can get their funding now, they have to align with the ESG-linked initiatives, right? And that trickles down to who they will fund with those money. So that means you as even a startup, you might need to start aligning to be able to tap into some of this funding as well. Then the last one that I've written here is the fact that ESG costs more than it delivers. And I think I've talked about that, which in reality, it does not. Then when we talk about it from intention to action, the next slide. So we're looking at it from a 5 different overview. The first one, from intent, you need to first of all identify. I'm talking about it from a side of a business now, right? You need to map your material ESG issues to business risk. In the enlarged version of the presentation, I've already highlighted some few material issues for the environment, social, and governance. You can easily see some of them, right? You need to map them out and look at the one that particularly points to your organization. We would see an example of an organization and how they've been able to iron out which one is theirs. I have 3 companies example. So the remaining 2 is in the extended presentation. So now when you're able to identify it, then you assign board and executive ownership and accountability structure for the issues that you've been able to raise and you want to address, right? Then you are now aligning it to what your company is all about, right? You align it accordingly. I can't give us more of the practical, but I'm just going to talk from the overview, right? Aligning is a different conversation altogether because that also involves stakeholder mapping. So in some cases, you might even need, as an organization, to get the help of a consultant to help you properly align what you do from your vision to your mission statement as an organization, because it starts from there up until what trickles down to what you now carry out as an operation, as an organization. Align it properly so that it matches what you need to achieve and how you'll be able to track and measure your impact. Then when you now align, then you measure it. And of course, you now start driving the culture and lead the way and begin to report and talk about the number of things that you're doing. So now to close out, I'll be talking about it from the point of view of company A. I call it company A, right? And this is strategically picked, rare earth mining value chain, right? This company, I'm just looking at only one aspect of the company. That's the operational process of the company. What they do is from this 8 point, they explore, then they have to seek permits, then develop their mine, extract, process what they've extracted, then they refine it and sell it through shipping or shipment. And of course, where they have explored or where they have extracted from, they need to close and rehabilitate those sites, right? That's like an operational process of this type of company. And some of the key ESG lever across the chain involves safety, involves water, involves energy, involves tailing. That's rehabilitation of the sites that they've taken, right? Involves community and dealing with the community people within the location where you're extracting from, right? And every singular details about governance elements that affect you as a business, right? So you're looking at it from this point of view. Easily, you've been able to identify some ESG level. If you look at this organization, all of the number of things that I've mentioned in the ESG, are they carrying it out? Is it something they do as a business? Safety, is it something they would do as a business? Water, is it something they will have to use as a business? Energy is something they will have to do. Tailing, they will have to rehabilitate. Then community engagement and, of course, governance. This is something that a typical organization will have to carry out in the first place. So when we're talking about ESG, we're not talking about something completely abstract. We're talking about your entire process as an organization. So now beyond just carrying them out, ESG is now saying you now prepare a scorecard for you to be able to track exactly how much water did you consume? How much of energy did you use? From 2026 to 2030, we have a plan. We are now consuming 30 megawatts of electricity. We have a plan to be able to make sure that we divide it. 15 megawatts will come from the grid, while 15 will come from renewable. And what will this save us? Oh, it's going to save us money between 2030 and 2050. It's going to save about a ton of billions of dollars. So you now begin to look at it from that perspective. Automatically, you're already creating a scorecard of ESG. So beyond just doing it nonchalantly as an organization, you are now tracking your initiatives. You are now measuring your impact. And you're not looking at it from year to year as to what improvement you're making as the year passes by, right? The same happens to tailing, community, and all of that. So these are not abstract words. It's still part of what we do. Then, yes, I think that would be like the last slide. So this other one is like a takeaway for those that are in the roundtable today. From the Green Card Certification International, I would like to mention that we'll be giving CIoD members and those present in this roundtable opportunity to work on the sustainability manager. You can onboard. You can use that if you don't have any tool, because sustainability software solutions are very expensive. So this has come to help you elevate your business to be able to track, manage, improve, and report without having to lift a finger. And of course, there will be a 1 year free for all that are available. Green Card Sustainability Manager. So you can take the screenshot of the QR code to onboard. Okay, this is the next one. This one is different from the first one because we have two goodies. So the second one might not apply to everybody. Okay, but then the slider will still be shared anyways, so we would have it. Then the second one is becoming a CPG founding partner. CPG is Construction Project Green Card. And just like Lead, Edge, BREEAM, DGMB is from Germany, Lead is from US, BREEAM is from UK. These are certification bodies for green building. So Nigeria has got its own rating tool today, and it's going to be launched on the 5th of June. So there is the call for founding partners for organizations that want to become a founding partner of the green certification tool. That's CPG. In partnership with Lagos State EGIS office, I think they're going to be the audit office, the Green Building Council Nigeria, and several other stakeholders across board. So if your organization is interested in something like this, you can also take a scan of this and register to be a founding partner. Look at how your organization align maybe with the certification tool. You have opportunity to be able to onboard one of your major projects for free for certification on the CPG as a founding partner. All right, so having said that, thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
That was a very deep insight into the role of the board uh, towards ESG implementation, moving from policy to actual action that delivers impact for your organization. We've been able to learn from that expose that ESG is your strategic business model for successful businesses. So if you want your business to be successful, this is something you need to take on. And we also want to thank you very much, sir, for the ESG strategic for debunking some of the ESG myths out there, saying that ESG is so expensive, it doesn't provide value, it doesn't. We've been able to see that it goes beyond just tracking, it goes beyond just reporting, and of course climate issues to actual insights that enable you to take strategic decision for a sustainable organization in the long run. Thank you very much for the manager software model that you're making available to all the participants at today's roundtable. On behalf of the Institute, I say a very big thank you. We all look forward to being a part of that and benefiting from the opportunities that you have. Without saying much, we're moving to the plenary session. So that's the most the engaging part of today's event. And we have, the Institute is so magnanimous and deep, in their research, looking out for subject matter experts. And believe me, trust me, you're getting ready for something that is very deep, insightful, and something that you can relate to, relatable discussion. Because I've had the opportunity to discuss with some of the ladies this morning at the lounge, and wow, was I wowed. There's so much to learn and so much, actionable insights that we can take away, that we'll be taking away from today's session. So this subject matter experts will be, taking us into strategic insights, on today's team. And I'll be introducing first and foremost the moderator, the eloquent. I call that eloquent today. She's like, I said, yes, you are indeed very eloquent. I've been opportune to attend some of your trainings, and so get ready. So we'll introduce Mrs. Hilda Nko, MBA, ACIS, FNIM, MCIOD. So Mrs. Hilda is a seasoned corporate governance expert and the principal consultant and chief executive officer of HNC Professional Services Limited, as well as the founding chief executive officer of the Society for Corporate Governance Nigeria. That's a very big shoe. Congratulations, madam. With over 25 years of cross-sector experience spanning health, banking, corporate services, and development, she brings a strong blend of strategic insight, boardroom expertise, and execution excellence, which is some of the things that we're going to be discussing today. She'll be bringing all of that into moderating today's session. She holds a BSc in sociology from Abia State University, an MBA in artificial intelligence and sustainability, widely regarded as a trusted board advisor on governance and leadership. Mrs. Nko has designed and led capacity building programs for board chairmen, directors, company secretaries, and executive management across at least over 35 organizations. Congratulations once again, madam. Her work spans board evaluation, committee training, director induction programs, strategic retreats, and the design of ethics, compliance, and performance systems, consistently strengthening board management, alignment, and improving governance outcomes. Recognized among the top 100 leading women in Nigeria in 2024, she's a certified governance practitioner and member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, which I'm also a member. Proudly that's what we do. NIM, CIoD membership, of which I'm also a member, and of course, a WIMBIS member. She serves as an independent non-executive director of the corporate boards and remain committed to advancing ethical leadership, organizational performance, and sustainable impact. Help me make welcome Mrs. Hilda Nko, MD. Okay, so that's just the start of the lineup for today. We also have the indefatigable Mrs. Tinuade Awe, MCIOD. A round of applause. So I'll be reading out her profile as she walks up the podium. Miss Tinuade Awe is the Chief Executive Officer. Careful, madam. Are you okay? All right. Miss Tinuade Awe is the Chief Executive Officer of TMCN Nigeria Limited, a boutique advisory firm specializing in corporate governance, ESG sustainability, and regulatory compliance. Through TMCN, she leads capacity building programs and advisory engagements that strengthen governance framework, improve sustainability performance, and enhance regulatory compliance. She is the chair of Lilly Hospitals Limited and serves as an independent non-executive director of Sunbed Global Concepts Limited and Prudential Zenith Life Limited. She is also a member of the supervisory board of the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, where she chairs the board nomination committee. Tinuade was the inaugural CEO of NGX Regulations Limited, with responsibility for regulating the NGX market, and previously held executive roles at the Nigerian Exchange Group PLC. She has contributed extensively to public service, including serving on the board of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, where she chaired the Corporate Governance Committee and supported implementation of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018. And this is exactly what boards are using to regulate themselves. As a chartered secretary, is something that we relate to from time to time when we advise our boards on ensuring that they are effective. So to have her today is a great honor. Thank you very much for honoring the Institute. She has also contributed to national and international advisory groups on corporate and market governance. She is ESG certified, a fellow, and member of several professional bodies, and a life member of the CIoD Nigeria. So we have her for life. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, madam, for joining us. Thank you. So the lineup is even getting better. So we have no other than Dr. Abimbola Ini Abasi, DBA FCPIN, MICRS, MIOD, NIM. Thank you very much, madam. Mrs. Dr. Ini Abimbola. I've been warned. Dr. Ini Abimbola is a seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience across the public and private sector, driving institutional and development reforms, strategic execution, public policy, stakeholder engagement, sustainability, ESG, and corporate governance. She brings over 15 years of expertise in development program management, innovation, result-based monitoring, which is very essential to ESG, as we've just learned, designing frameworks that translate data into accountability. 2008 Draper Hills Fellow at Stanford University. She's a vice president and founding trustee of the Sustainability Professional Institute of Nigeria, Spain, and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Management. She holds degrees in English, management, and business administration, including a doctorate from Rome Business School in Italy. Dr. Ini previously served as a UN technical expert on women's political leadership, supporting Nigeria's National Assembly. She's a faculty member at Ferdinand Porsche Fern FH University in Austria, a visiting faculty at NUTM, and regional lead for the CSR company. She founded Tissue Praxis Consulting Limited and previously served as Executive Secretary of WIMBIDS. Her experience spans roles as the African Union, UNECA, and various boards. She has led innovative strategies in sustainability, ESG, elections, and risk management across multiple sectors. Please, let's give her a round of applause. Last but not the least, the gentleman on our panel. We saved the best for last, Mr. Onwusa Benson Olayinka. Mr. Benson Olayinka is a dedicated and result-driven sustainability and ESG leader with extensive experience across the mining, oil and gas, and manufacturing sectors. He has a proven track record in implementing environmental and social management systems, conducting environmental and social due diligence, and leading sustainability reporting in line with best global frameworks such as the GRI, and we have one of the members of the board here as well, so you can see a very well put together panel. He's also skilled in navigating international regulatory requirements and World Bank IFC performance standard to deliver investor grade ESG performance. He currently serves as sustainability lead at Segilola Resources Operating Limited, one of our sponsors for today's roundtable, a subsidiary of the Thor Exploration Limited and Nigeria's first large-scale and exploration company. Well done. In this role, he oversees sustainability strategy, ESG data management, and alignment with global standards, including the GRI and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, the SDGs. Mr. Benson holds a master's degree in environmental toxicology and pollution management, alongside several professional environmental certifications. He's committed to delivering impactful and practical ESG solutions, supporting responsible business practices and advancing sustainability performance across organizations in Nigeria and the broader African region. You're welcome, sir. So I now hand you over to the able hands of Mrs. Hilda Inko. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Fola Shade. You've done a fantastic job. Please, can we give her a round of applause? We're waiting for you to read your profile. Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Sam. Good morning, our President and Chairman of Council. And thank you so much for this opportunity. I crave your indulgence to stand on existing protocols. So I have my timer set so that I don't blow the time. All right. So the discussion this morning, ESG is no longer a peripheral consideration, because it's reshaping governance, systems, influencing capital allocation, and of course, redefining how organizations create long-term value. And so our conversation this morning is not about theory. It is about practical leadership, real integration, and measurable impact. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that the lineup of panelists this morning is exceptional, and I must congratulate the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria for putting this together. And so without much ado, I'd just like us to delve into what we have to do this morning. And I'd like to start off with Ms. Tinua. Tell me from your perspective, what does strong ESG leadership look like in Nigeria today?
Thank you very much, Hilda, and thanks a lot to Thank you very much, Hilda, and thanks a lot to the Institute for having me. So I would say that there are several indicia of what leadership looks like when you are on the ESG space, and you might as well become a role model. Mm-hmm. I think one of them, most importantly, is your governance architecture. Because as we all say, a fish rots from the head. And so ensuring that within your company, not only at the board level, because we focus a lot on the board, forgetting that the board is there maybe 4, maybe 6 times a year, but that the management, through the executive management down to the most junior staff, are actually the ones that are driving the strategy and implementing the strategy set by the board. Yeah. So it's important that there's that governance. And what can that governance look like? It can look like the board itself taking responsibility for ESG risks and opportunities. Mm-hmm. More often, it looks like the board having committees that actually can focus on these issues precisely. And there's no one size fits all. So I want to use Nigerian examples. If you look at Seplat, which is a company that has already publicized its IFRS compliance report, you see that it has 4 board committees. There's one committee that's the sustainability committee, but it's tracking responsibility across 4 committees. Interestingly, one of those committees is the finance committee. So the point that the speaker was making around the financial impact. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through, but all I'm saying is there's no one size fits all. Yeah. If you look at Fidelity Bank, which has also published and I'm using Nigerian examples deliberately so that we will know we can do it. You will see that they have a management committee. I think they call it the Sustainable Banking Principles Committee that is charged with this. Now, in many organizations, that governance would also include a chief sustainability officer. And I think you have to check where the chief sustainability, the seniority of the chief sustainability officer, their access to the CEO and to the board, and also where they sit. So when people say the chief sustainability officer is reporting to corporate communications, I always have a question mark, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it's not only about corporate communications. You have a report. That report must be backed by something that you are doing. So when you are seeing it only as reporting, I have a question mark. Now, that's governance. I think you also need to have a good KPI system that is incentive linked. So sometimes you have executives and, let me use the oil and gas industry because that's one of the fulcrums of our nation. So you have an industry where the chief executive officer variable bonus, 10 to 30% of his variable bonus is dependent on the acquisition of certain assets, But what you can then do is take another 10 to 20% that is dependent on reduction of their carbon footprint. Let them have 30,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2027, reduced to 5,000 tons by 2030. And you have a tracking, of it. I think the other, so I've talked about incentives, I've talked about the governance, I want to talk about data. Data is very, very important. So companies that have the data or realize they don't have the data, because data is a problem that we all know we have in Nigeria, and they are doing what they need to do to get the base year. So it's not a problem not to have the data, but what are you doing to get the base year? Finally, and there, as I said, there are several of them, but in the interest of time, the last one I would choose is stakeholder management. And the speaker had already said it. Companies that have their pulse on their stakeholders. Who are my stakeholders upstream, as in contributing into me, and who are my stakeholders downstream who are taking my goods and services or whatever it is that I'm producing, because they all are important. The government is a stakeholder. Your regulator is a stakeholder. The community that you stay in is a stakeholder. What are the material issues, the material ESG issues that depend on them? So the stakeholder engagement very tied into the materiality assessment that helps you to determine what are the ESG issues that are relevant in your strategy. Now, finally, on that stakeholder management, it's the ability to have that long-term, short-term conversation. So you have a stakeholder, typical Nigerian, wants to receive dividends, has heard that you've entered into a type of business, doesn't want to hear, let me use oil and gas again. You are acquiring assets and therefore you are flaring, okay? These are new assets. That person, you've acquired the asset, wants to see it in the bottom line, in the quarterly returns. You need to be able to say to them, yes, we acquired the asset, but we also acquired a type of drilling equipment that helps us to reduce flaring because of our ESG targets. And therefore, that is an expense. And we are not going to be able to, but over the long term. We also acquired the type of equipment that means that we are not just pouring away wastewater. We're dipping it deep into the ground. You need to be able to have those types of conversations. And that is another index for me of leadership in this space.
Thank you.
Let me stop here. Thank you.
In fact, I think we should have another session where you break these things down a bit more. Thank you so much for that. You talked about governance architecture. You talked about KPI systems that are linked to incentives. All right. And then data. And then, of course, stakeholder management. Thank you very much for that insight. And Mr. Onsa, I'll come to you. How does ESG leadership translate into real institutional resilience and long-term economic value? We're not talking about just compliance now, all right? We want to know how ESG leadership will translate into real institutional resilience and long-term economic value.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good day once again, everyone. So Ms. Abambala really went to the deep end of the conversation. She started from the deep end. She didn't start from the shallow end.
Ms. Aware.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Awe, she went from the deep end. She has spoken a lot of what ESG really is about. So, like you rightly said, how are we looking at it from a resilience standpoint? Compliance is not. Compliance basically should be like the floor, the starting point of what ESG conversation should be about.
Yeah.
For example, you want to start a project. One of the first things you're going to be asked to do on compliance level is an ESIA, as an environmental social impact assessment. You're going to do your feasibility studies. So from the financial and economic standpoint, you are good. Your business is sustainable, it's feasible. So that's just the compliance aspect of it. But when we are going to resilience aspect of it, which is adapting to risk, Dr. Somi also laid a great foundation in his opening keynote speech. Resilience is more about adapting to risk. How can you de-risk a business? How can you implement strategies that would ensure operational efficiencies in the line of your business? Like he said, he was talking about materiality or looking at your material topics. And he used an example of an extractive industry. I don't know whether you know I was coming here before you used that example. When you look at your value chain, you look at your operations, you look at what you want to do. So it's actually best you start from inception, like you said. When you look at what you want, what your operations or what your business is about, you look at the aspect of the business that you are going to be impacting, both internal, you look at your internal stakeholders, you look at your external stakeholders. You look at the inputs that you require from the environment. You look at the reaction you'll be getting from the external environment. That's like your community, for example. That's your external stakeholders. You look at what your regulators is looking about. You now look at the risk associated along every line of that value chain. You now look at the risk. You now look at what mitigative measures am I going to be putting down in that risk. That alone is already a practical example of what ESG is about. Then when you now look at that, you look at the metrics you want to measure, because you cannot manage what you don't measure. It's not possible.
True.
And you cannot control what you don't have accountability over. So once you have accountability on data, looking at it and using it to make effective decisions, you're already de-risking that business. And it's easy for foreign investment to come in and look at your business. Oh, we want to scale this up outside, because they already know this business has already been de-risked. So that already helps your resilience. It helps you to scale in that your particular line of business. For example, let's look at this US-Iran war. A company that is heavily reliant on diesel or on fuel and has not the risk and look at how can I be able to pivot if I'm having a problem in my supply chain. It's going to be a challenge for them. He made the example of the Coleman Energy. So it was easy for them to look at the operational efficiency. Like, oh, we are generating this amount of electricity using this cost. So how can we reduce this cost? So they're already looking at the operation. They were not, it doesn't necessarily have to be looking at it that we want to write a report on ESG. But they looked at it on operational level and say, okay, we are generating this amount of electricity, spending this amount of cost to generate it. How can we reduce this cost? That's an operational efficiency they're looking at. They now said, okay, let's pivot to renewable energies. In the course of doing that, they discovered another line of business. So they de-risk that aspect and even open another line of business. So that's basically, if most companies, if most organizations can look deep into their strategies and operation, they can actually achieve resilience using ESG.
Very many thanks. Can we put our hands together for him? Well said, well said. De-risking. Having said all of this, Dr. Bimbola, we've said so much about ESG at a conceptual level, more or less, and yet execution still remains a struggle. What are the biggest gaps between ESG ambition and actual implementation?
I'll say 3 gaps, straight up. The governance gap. ESG, more often than not, sits in communication. So organizations want to communicate all the time around, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, we've done A, we've done B, we've gotten this award, and all of that. We're not seeing it in the CFO's numbers in terms of what is the, so when we talk about materiality now, we're looking at either double materiality, which is outside in, inside out. Outside in will be how does the how do sustainability issues, whether it's environmental, social, or governance, have a financial impact on the organization? And then, of course, the other part of that will be how do whatever the organization does have an impact on the environment and social. And so that doesn't show up in, you know, the CFO's numbers. It doesn't show up in the CRO's risk register, for instance. So that's a gap. The second gap, I think Tino mentioned, this will be a data gap. Very few companies understand how they can gather, whether it's scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, metrics. It's still a struggle in terms of understanding which one are we supposed to gather, what should be the boundaries of our reporting and things like that. And a lot of them are still very tick boxes. So if we are supposed to be IFRS 1 and 2 compliant, well, we are going to tick the box and be IFRS compliant. And so you now have issues around being truly embedded. The third gap for me will be what I would call an incentive gap. So we're still measuring the work of the CEO and the board around the P&L, rather than looking at it from a value creation point of view. I see sustainability, and when I talk about sustainability, I say sustainability is a value creation. It's value creation. You must be able to create value all around. And in that regard, when we talk about those gaps and barriers, if ESG cannot alter a decision, then it is not embedded. Because it has to be embedded to be able to alter a decision, every decision across board, irrespective of what decision that the organization is taking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Three gaps. The governance, social, and incentive gaps. Thank you very, very much. And I'm coming back to you again, Ms. Awe. What key ESG trends should Nigerian organizations be paying attention to? And what are their implications for governance and competitiveness? Trends.
Okay.
ESG trends.
All right. So I love this question, and that's why I'm laughing.
Okay.
The first trend is a trend that I think Ine and I don't particularly like, and that trend is reporting. Because it's the end, and people are focused too much on reporting without realizing that what ESG is really about is a change in the way that you do business, to take into consideration these sustainability issues and to identify your risks and develop on the opportunities. But reporting is a trend. You know, Nigeria, as you know, has adopted IFRS 1 and 2 reporting for PIEs, public interest entities, and there's a roadmap issued by the Financial Reporting Council. There are another trend, and related to that, of course, is the more there's reporting, the more that there are issues around greenwashing, greenwashing, and assurance. Because, you know, are you putting out what data are you putting out? And you can be putting out anything, but assurance is now something, and indeed the International Assurance and Auditing Standards Board has created an assurance standard specifically for sustainability reporting. So that's, you know, that's going to happen much more. I think the other one is what I call the centrifugal and centripetal forces. Yes, very interesting. So when you think about, you know, pulling away from sustainability and pulling towards sustainability, and this is global, but I think what it shows is that Nigerian companies have to do, as in, you know, that when you say do me, I am doing me. Nigerian companies have to say I am doing me. And the reason why I say so is if you look at the US and the whole Make America Great Again, Trump withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, attorney generals in the US going after companies and saying on all sorts of theories of litigation, of culpability, just because some of these companies have joined alliances where, like the net zero alliances of asset managers and banks, there are a lot of cases in the US, and whether we like it or not, what happens in a number of these economies affects us. Then, so that's in the US, a lot of pulling away and saying, drill, baby, drill. You know, I'm not that focused on the environment. I'm not that focused on social. Businesses are supposed to make money, period. Then you have, on the other hand, other parts of the world. You have Asia, big on reporting. You know, what kinds of reports, stock exchanges, domesticating some of these international standards, taxonomies in South Africa. Then you have in Europe, the whole ESRS and the omnibus.
Yes.
So the omnibus is not supposed to reduce the ESRS burden as such. Let me put that in quotes, but it is supposed to ensure that basically that the entities that it's applicable to are still competitive. That's the ultimate aim of the omnibus. There are various things that are happening that time will not. So there's all that activity. Where you see the Western countries, and this is the point, centrifugal and centripetal, you can ask yourself, where should you be? And I say you should be where, for the long term, you will be around. You should be where you are looking at your own sustainability risks, looking at your own sustainability opportunities, and doing you. Whatever anybody wants to do, whether they're drilling, baby drilling, or they are doing omnibus, just be aware of it. Finally, another one is CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is a European mechanism, again, very, very quickly meant to make European companies competitive, because there are certain carbon obligations that those companies have. Because of those obligations, Europe is concerned about their competitiveness with goods and services that come out of Europe. So January this year instituted effective, not all parts, not everything, but January 1, 2026 was the effective date. And the idea is that whenever you're bringing anything into Europe, and for us that the gentleman who was speaker was talking about us exporting more, we should be concerned about how our goods and services, the adjustment in that carbon border adjustment mechanism, it's a tax, basically. When you increase the tax, what happens? Your prices go up. So how competitive are they? So we need to be thinking about that even though we're here. Basically, what are all these things saying? We're a part of the world, but we're also us. So for me, everything is pointing to Africa. Do your thing. Do you. Do you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Let's put our hands together for Ms. Awe. I hope we're drawing some value from all this that we're hearing. And please put your questions together, because I'm sure a couple of us will have questions. And when we get to that point in the program, we will take your questions. Dr. Abimbola, I am coming back to you. So, excuse me. For MSMEs and growing businesses, what practical and cost-effective approaches can enable ESG adoption without overwhelming resources?
Okay, I think for MSMEs, I think we're seeing a lot of that. I know that I've helped quite a number. And that would be just starting at the basic with HSC compliance, for instance. Also understanding what are the requirements around the business that you do, or the services that you offer. So whether it's energy efficiency, whether it's vendor management issues, or even your contractual agreements. So it's really looking at the basics around what works for you within the concept of the business that you do. If you notice a number of, so I've done quite a number of work with the banking sector and FIs, and you will notice that for a lot of them, with the MSMEs, they always require that MSMEs that are working with them should have at least a sustainability strategy or policy at the least. Yes, just have a sustainability policy and be able to show us that you have this, and then of course also be able to say to us, particularly those that offer what we call third-party services to these organizations, to also be able to show us that you have clear indicators around some of the areas that we as an organization are considering and focused on in our sustainability. So I think for MSMEs is really looking at what are the basic things that we can look at. So HSC compliance, for instance, a clear sustainability policy that takes into consideration the area of work that you do. So for instance, if you're an event planner, what's your policy around issues like using firecrackers, for instance? Because we had a lot of case studies. So what I do is try to work around building case studies Nigerian context and African contextual case studies,
Yes.
so that we understand, because for me, I think that our ESG issues are very different.
Yeah.
The ESG issues that are material to us in Nigeria and Africa are very different. Energy issues, very, very key issues that we need to look at. So walk around the issue. If you are an event planner or an event vendor, for instance, what policy do you have around if you are throwing a firecracker or pushing out the smoke and fire erupts? So those are the kind of things you want to take in place. Very forward-looking organizations. So I'll mention maybe like Stanbic IBTC, for instance, will clearly want you to highlight clearly what are your policies even as a small business. So most of the MSMEs will say, but we are a small business, we shouldn't be put into this kind of, but it's also safeguard for you. So when you begin to talk around issues of what is the safeguard for your business, and again, like I said, sustainability is value addition, value creation.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Dr. Abimbola. And Mr. Onwusa, I'm going to now ask you a question that is centered around your core area. Okay, so in high impact sectors such as mining and natural resources, what does responsible ESG leadership look like in practice?
Okay. So for us at Segilola, we are a gold mining company.
Okay.
So our value chain starts from exploration. So it shows that we have impact around the environment and around people.
Yeah.
So from the inception, we set out what are material tools. And like we were talking about risk and the risking and strategy, we're also now going to look at that materiality. How does it impact profitability? That's where the concept of double materiality comes in. How are you balancing your material topics against making profit? Because that's the end goal of every business. That's the bottom line. Your profit, your people, and your planet.
Yes.
So that's basically the pillars that hold our sustainability practice in the company. So when we set out our material topics, I'm going to give a bit of practical examples of what we have done around that, so that we can have an understanding of what we are saying. Dr. Sani, like I said, it's like he knew I was coming. So basically, he was talking about the extractive industry. So, for example, you are using water as one of your major inputs.
Okay.
And you first of all look at the environment you are extracting from.
Yeah.
Is it a water-stressed environment? If it is, what are you going to do? How are you going to de-risk and mitigate those actions? If it's not, how are you going to? So let me give you an example. When we started, we had a cofferdam. We constructed a cofferdam so that we know that we are going to be extracting water. We are not going to be impacting groundwater, because we know groundwater is one of the major sources of water in the host community. So by already doing that, we have already removed the risk of contaminating or affecting water levels in the environment. As we started operating over the years, we looked at our water consumption level. How can we even reduce freshwater withdrawal from the environment? It's because we are looking at the operational efficiency now. We now said, okay, from our tailings, basically, for those that don't understand mining terminology, tailings is the slurry that comes from process of earth material. So when you crush your rock and your sand and try to extract, what you get, the slurry out, is what you call tailings.
Okay.
We looked at our tailings. We are finding a bit of moisture there. Can we extract water from the tailings back into our operational process? We now discovered, yes, we can do that. So we created a circular movement of water from the tailings dam back to the process plant. And over the years, we have been able to extract and do a lot of recycling of water. 2024, we were able to extract 75% of water from the tailings dam, and 2025, we did 90% extraction of water. Wow. So it shows a significant reduction of wastewater withdrawal. So that's an example of using strategy to effect operational efficiency. Then you also look at your emissions.
Yeah.
Mining is a very energy intensive operation. You do a lot of haulage of earth material. You do a lot of movement of heavy machinery. This requires power, and the power is gotten from diesel energy. So how can you and these diesel are going to be giving out emissions. You need power for your process plant. Your power is going to be generated using diesel energy. Diesel is going to be giving out emissions. So you go back and look at your data, like we have been discussing on the panel. Data is very key. It's one of the starting points of effecting leadership in ESG. and using that data for decision making. So we look at your diesel usage and the cost implication. Oh, emission levels is going high. How can you do this? You pivot and say, okay, can we use alternative source of energy, that is fuel, to reduce emission levels? An example of that is we can use CNG where possible, and in your other corporate office, you can use alternative source of energy. That alone has been able to help us effect a significant reduction of emissions over the year. So there are a lot of operational efficiencies you can effect along your value chain. Dr. Somi was talking about when you are sourcing from your vendors. So you are looking at sustainable resourcing. You look at are you operating using what you call sustainable procurement? Are you doing it in such a manner that they are not they are not giving you a risk on the downstream? So when you do that across your value chain, when you break down your operations into the most smallest bit, and you do that across your value chain, you'll be able to effect ESG at the smallest level, even up to your people, which are your greatest asset in an organization. You look at your community. How are they sharing value from what you are generating as an organization? And before you can even share value, are they involved in the decision making? Because that's something we have been able to perfect at Segilola, what we call cultural governance. So cultural governance for us basically is how we are able to bring the host communities, the traditional leaders, because they are the ones that are going to enjoy the value that is being created. Let them have a say in what they want, basically in the stakeholders management, in the engagement, basically what they're having leadership roles, they basically. Let me give another example. So we have what we call LRP, livelihood restoration program for the host communities.
Yeah.
Now we have like 3 LRP programs, but these host community, these PAPs, they are constituted into committees. So basically they decide how they want to run this thing, so that for them it's already a sustainable means of livelihood.
Sorry, I'm going to have to cut you short there, because I want to ride on the back of something you have said.
Okay.
So from a financial and performance perspective, is there real value, or is this thing still cost-driven, the ESG? I mean, based on all that you have said, how are you making the money? Is it cost-driven? Should we even bother about it? Is it going to cost us a lot of money, or should we continue to look at value?
Okay. The biggest value you can get from ESG,
very briefly,
yes, is reputation. You can't quantify that.
Reputation. It
gives you that social license to operate. You cannot buy that anywhere. There's this telecommunication company in Nigeria, everywhere you go. They operate ESG on a very high level. And they don't even need to advertise anymore before you know they're in a particular community. They do their ESG and their CSRs in a way that they affect almost every sustainable development goal. You look at, whether you want to look at sport, you want to look at food, you want to look at health, you want to look at there. So that's a very strategic way of putting yourself out. So that reputation alone is not quantifiable. So it's not about cost at that point. It's about reputation, which is a very high value asset any company can have. That social license to operate is very key.
Very good. Thank you so much. Dr. Abimbola, very quickly, if you were to advise a CEO, what are the first three quick actions they can take in establishing or instituting ESG leadership?
So just yesterday, I spent about 3 hours with the board.
Oh, wow.
Around what are the key issues. And I must say that one of the major problems, again, like I said, is the governance gap, is that conversations around ESG and sustainability are placed at, the bottom. So you have a board meeting where you have maybe a board strategy, and then they've had a 3-day strategy session in Lakwe. And then it's on the 3rd day at 2 p.m. that they put the ESG and sustainability session. Everybody's ready to go. Everybody's tired. They don't want to. It's just to tick the box that, we had a ESG and sustainability session for the board. And I was very brutal with the board, because this board is an international brand. And I said to them, this is the major problem. So you come into a country like Nigeria where the rules are not strict, and you do the same thing that every other person is doing, but you won't do the same thing in South Africa. So my first will be, ESG is not an addendum. Your sustainability issues are not an addendum. You must institute an ESG sustainability committee at the level of the board, or you add it to your risk committee with a clear indication in the board charter.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing. The second thing is understand when a CEO is able to talk about the 3 top sustainability issues that they're dealing with, have dealt with, or are working on, just the same way we will talk about the 3 top financial issues, then it is no longer an addendum. It is now
correct.
a business strategy.
That's correct.
The third thing is that ESG is embedded in your strategy. I have maybe 5 or 6 boards that I've had to help ensure that we had to work on the business, the vision of the business. And this is not a one-man business. This is a subsidiary of one of the biggest banks in Nigeria. You must look at it from the vision of the business and then be able to create a sustainability vision from there. That is what drives the entirety of your operations. ESG is not seated in brands communication. It's not seated in the marketing department. It's not an officer that has, like Tinu said, that does not have a direct reporting to the board or the CEO. So it is something I would say to the CEO, first of all, do you have any board that clearly takes the decision of ESG and sustainability? Where is the skill gap? Have you trained your board and management to understand what they need to? If it's the audit committee that looks at it, is your audit committee trained? Is there a board charter clearly giving them oversight function over ESG and sustainability issues? Do they understand what they are looking at? Tino talked about the new framework for assurance, which is going to come up, I think, by the end of December 2026. It's called the ISS 5000, where it's clearly an assurance for what are the questions your board needs to know to be able to ask the assurer. Are we having a limited assurance, or what they call what's it called again? Reasonable assurance. Understanding these things clearly means that there is clear direction for the organization, not just to make ESG sustainability. I get tired of talking about ESG and sustainability to God, because I don't think people are ready until it becomes, I think we work well when it's a compliance, cane kind of thing. That's when we work well. But for something that enables our business, for something that, we're talking about the financial, you were asking Mr. Musa.
Yeah.
The financial part of sustainability is the key part of it. How do sustainability issues affect the financial performance of the entity? Very critical. And that's the first materiality issue. So COVID-19 shut down businesses for 4 months. What does that mean for your sustainability issues? What does that mean for your enterprise risk management issues? Clearly, that shows there needs to be a clear risk register around ESG and sustainability on your risk analysis, on your business continuity, on your business strategy, your marketing strategy, how you every single operational framework. So it's no longer something that we're just having conversations at roundtable. Fantastic idea that we are doing it, because again, we're hitting it on the head. But I think we need to go beyond this and begin to, because again, after COVID-19, organizations that investors are looking at are organizations that had built that resilience prior to COVID-19. What else do we know that is coming on the horizon that will push for business continuity? Is your organization ready? Have you built that? Because resilience is not about the ability to stay on. It's like we say sustainability is the ability to remain over a period of time. No, it is the ability to keep creating value. That's the difference. You can be a 100-year company, but you're not creating value. We remember the onward newspapers of Nigeria. And then we think about companies like Coca-Cola. I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, this is her field. If you leave her, we can go on and on and on. And so before I ask Mr. Wade the next question, I'd like to ask Secretariat to please check if we have questions online, because we'll be taking questions right after that. And Mr. Wade, I'd like to ask you, how can different stakeholders, talking about the regulators, the private sector, investors, and development institutions, how can they all come together to build a unified ESG ecosystem?
Okay, so I would like to start with the regulators.
Yes.
So the regulators are very critical, especially in a
Yes.
society like Nigeria, where people respond to compliance initiatives. And so, we shouldn't, compliance is also important in this area, even though we would like actual behavioral change. But compliance can drive behavioral change. And if you want to know, just look at how many women you have in the top echelon of the banking sector after the sustainable banking principles came in 2012. So it can work. So I think one of the things, though, is the silos.
Yeah.
So you have, as of today, you have the SEC Sustainability Disclosure Guidelines. If you are listed, you have the NGX Sustainability Disclosure Guidelines. If you are a bank, you have the Sustainable Banking Principles. Then you also have the corporate governance, the corporate reporting regulator, as I call the FRC, also has IFRS S1 and S2. What you ideally would like is some convergence, where companies for reporting one will be satisfying everybody. So, and the IFRS Foundation, the ISSB will tell you, we created IFRS S1 and S2 as a base that you can piggyback your national requirements onto. So one would want all the regulators involved to piggyback together so that it is not a burden for companies. Because as I always say, companies are not in the business of being regulated. They're in the business of the business that they set up to do. So where they feel that every day is one report, it's exhausting. Okay. So I think that that's number one. I think number two would be around ensuring from a board perspective that there is the appropriate messaging to the investors and all the other stakeholders. And so I was talking to somebody yesterday who is an a representative of institutional investors, and I said to him, why is it that we don't hear publicly from institutional investors in Nigeria? Why is it only the retail investors that when you go to AGMs, you hear from? And there were all sorts of reasons that he gave. But we need to have a situation where we can come together and help companies to determine for all the investors what are the material issues. For the employees in this industry, what are the basic material issues? And that work has already been partly done. So if you look in the SASB standards, which are kind of integrated into the IFRS standards, you will see a lot of material issues per industry and cross-industry. These are things that industry groups can help with capacity building. They can help with roundtables so that we know, okay, in the oil and gas industry, wastewater, gas flaring, removal of your assets, creating where you've worked, the thing that he said, the closure, all those closures, those are material issues. What else? So if I'm just starting out, I know I don't have to reinvent the wheel. That will also help. Then I think finally, the reporting will also help. I've talked about the reporting, but when I'm talking about reporting now, I'm talking about the reporting from the point of view of those who use the reports. Ensuring, so ISSB says, I created the IFRS standards for the users of general purpose financial statements. So they're telling you, we created it with the investor in mind, we created it with the bondholder in mind, we created it with the bank in mind. There are other users of general purpose financial statements. Those people should use it. So if I know that if I go to a bank, they will actually be requiring my sustainability report, as Ini has said, and she mentioned one bank that does it. If everybody is doing it, then I know that to get money for capital, I need it. I don't think it's a wasted effort. And, the world is intertwined because we have scope 3. Which affects everybody. There's something I want to say, Hilda. I know you want to stop me, but I think I always like saying this when I go to talk about sustainability. I have a friend in the UK who is a sustainability consultant, and he was telling me about working for a hospital to try and get hold of what was causing their scope 3. They had huge scope 3 emissions. And when they did the analysis, they found out that one of their biggest contributors to scope 3 was a laundry service that they used, an outsourced laundry service. Do you know what they did? They asked the laundry service. they simply stopped giving them business. It can happen, but people need to know that things like that can happen so that they will get with the program. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Please, ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together for this fantastic panel? I don't know if we have any questions in the room online. The president has a question.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been extremely enlightening. I've learned a lot of new things myself this morning. My question, I would say, is two in one. And I'll start with a comment that Tinu made referencing the US president, drill, baby, drill. We've seen in this current administration a sort of walk back from climate-related issues and things like that. So my first question is, has that significantly impacted the growth of, the sustainability concept, and has that brought about a slowdown in adoption and things like that? So the second question, and I'll bring that closer to home, again from the oil and gas industry, where I've worked. And that is that, and I want to talk more about sometimes the practicality. For many years, I worked with a multinational, for instance, that would not allow me to bring in products unless the vessel I was going to use had a double hull or double skin in layman's language, even if it meant stopping the business completely, right? I also have had the opportunity of interacting with other organizations where the first thing they thought of was, why are we on the Nigerian Stock Exchange? All those people are just reporting, we are spending money and getting out of it. I know a bit about the gold mining business, and I can assure you that the problems they deal with on a daily basis with communities and things like that, I tell you, sometimes reporting and things like that are the least. When they wake up every morning, they don't know what they are going to meet in the minefield, the challenges they will meet. So my question really is this, or maybe a comment, is that I think at this stage, we really cannot do away with the compliance aspect of things. For a lot of people I may describe in quotes as oligarchs who have built empires and business, they will tell you that, look, what is the quickest way we can do this thing, right? What is the least effort we can put in so that FRCN, Stock Exchange, will not be on our neck, So the question, I think, is really, what do we do to nurture, grow? But until maybe sometime in the future, we really cannot do without that compliance, enforcement, and whatever, because without it, I dare say we will not be moving too far ahead. Thank you.
Do you have any questions online? No, the lady in white.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Ololade Alunge. I'm the founder of Child Health Advocacy Initiative, a public health and PR expert. I think we've had a very rich discussion so far. Thank you for CIoD for putting this together. So my first question goes to Segilola Resources. Many ESG strategies focus heavily on environment and governance. How is Segilola Resources integrating child health, maternal health, and community well-being into the ESG in a measurable manner? I come from the charity background. I've run an NGO for close to 30 years, and that is why I'm so interested in health. And then to Mrs. Awe, from the discussion so far, it's obvious there is a lot of gaps in ESG leadership in Nigeria. What specific ESG competencies should boards be looking out for? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very insightful conversations. So my question goes to Mr. Nwosa. I am really deeply interested in your cultural governance in host communities. I would like to know how you get them to, how do you say, not make outlandish requests that is not in line with what the company has been set out for, and how you manage their integration into decision making. I work in several communities across Nigeria, so I'll be really interested. My second question is, so when we say that, so we've spoken a lot, and I do agree, that about the need to get ESG sustainability more relevant at the board level. But so your response to a question is, let me paraphrase, what value do you get from ESG? And you said reputation, right? That's the big one. And so is reputation a deal breaker for a board? Is ESG the only thing that gives a company reputation? And maybe that might be the problem, because I know what Ini was saying in terms of integrating it into financials. And maybe I would like to hear your perspective about that, and how as boards, we need to be shaping things beyond reputation if ESG is not the only source of reputation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Start from the first question. You talked about what has Segilola done as regards health. I'll give you a very major example. So our community projects are broken into 3. So we have them under CSR, we have them under CDAs, which links to your question, and we have them under LRP. So under our CDAs programs, annually, Segilola has a community medical outreach that has been running for 3 years now. So every year we go into the community offering medical diagnosis, medical tests, offering free drugs, supplying the community health centers with medications annually. Last year was the most peculiar one. We started what we call Shegun Care. So Shegun is the name of our CEO, by the way, Shegun Lawson. So last year, the peculiarity about Shegun Care is that we went into what we call mental health care, because we noticed like I said, you need to always do what you call materiality. So we looked at our host community, and we noticed that people associated with mental illnesses are being stigmatized. So we did that initiative and incorporated Shegun Healthcare and put that medical health, mental health aspect key. Then aside that, we have been doing minor surgery for recipients of the host communities. We have donated eyeglasses. We have done eye surgery. A lot of them actually. We have done larynx surgery. So basically, as regards health, it's one of our major programs we do annually. And it has benefited over 11,000 beneficiaries since when we started. So that's the first question. So the second question, yes, cultural governance. Okay, cultural governance for us, like I was explaining earlier, is how we bring our host community into decision-making via stakeholder engagement. And how are we able to do that without them making outlandish demand? We know that humans always have insatiable demands, according to Adam Smith, which is father of economics. We already know that. But we do that in collaboration with the government through what we call CDAs, Community Development Agreements. So that's how we're able to even do projects around a lot of other aspects. I'll give examples. So this Community Development Agreement helps us already in collaboration with the community to agree on this is what I want, this is what I want. And it aligns with the company strategy of, this is what we are giving back, shared value. So under the CDA programs, we look at education, we look at scholarship programs, we look at youth empowerment, we look at women initiative program, we look at health, like I mentioned, we look at other aspects that make sure we try to tick boxes around different material, sustainable goal programs that we can achieve. Like last year, I think we finally completed all the construction of all schools, because we have 3 host communities around us. So each of them have a school constructed by Segilola there. Annually around sports, we do what they call it, football tournaments that brings youth integration. Aside scholarship, the scholarship rank goes from secondary to tertiary education. So we do that for children from the host community. Health program, I mentioned that earlier. So we make sure that through the CDA that we have agreed, that has been ratified by the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Mines and Mine Development, we are able to cover aspects that the community has agreed on. On agriculture, I was talking about our LRP programs. So we have a market garden, which we call a Fesoako market garden. We have the fish farm. So under LRP, we have 3 major ones. We have the fish farm, we have the vegetable market garden, and we have cocoa and oil palm rehabilitation program. So we look at what they want. We look at what they request. We look at what is the major means of livelihood in this area, and we plug into it. It's not that I'm just going to come with my own CSR program and say, I want to plant trees. It's not beneficial to them at that point. It's not creating value, which was the question you're asking.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm going to the third question on reputation. It's not what they want. It is creating value for them that they can sustainably continue. So last year we also did a youth transportation scheme, whereby it's a means of giving employment to the youth from the youth community based on what they request and what we see that aligns with sustainable programs for them. It's a strategy, like we said. ESG should be a strategy. So once we have already done all this, your social license to operate is already there. That's one. And that leads to the third question. Now, for us as a company, Segilola is a subsidiary of Toe Exploration. Toe Exploration is listed on the London Stock Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange. So for us, it's a compliance that this company is being de-risked and they are compliant with sustainability frameworks. So that alone already is a plus for us. But the value creation, the shared value we are giving to the community is an extra. It gives us that license to operate with little or least resistance of community coming to say, oh, we no agree today, we want this, we want that. Because we already have CDAs that are already been ratified and agreed on, and we are fulfilling. Then we are now adding CSR. CSR is not something we agreed to. It's what we want to do and we see. For example, of a CSR program, it's construction of road around the host communities. So that one alone is an extra. It's not part of the CDA. Donation of palliatives to the elderly around festive period. It's not part of the CD, but it is what we feel we want to do because it's a CSR program. So those one alone already gives you that social license to operate. You already boost your reputation around that. So it creates, like the president was saying, it creates a path of least resistance to operate. You are not going to be having community issues or community shutdown or lockdown around our operations.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Musa. Yes, please go ahead and react to.
So I wanted to react to the president's first question, which is around whether there is a chilling effect of some of these forces. And that's why I described it as centrifugal and centripetal. There are forces pulling apart, but there are also forces pulling together. And I think it's only maybe at the end of the Trump administration, maybe when the Democrats come back into power, we will see what has happened. I will, however, say that there's a lot of greenwashing going on. Greenwashing is when you're doing things that are sustainable, but because you know it is not socially acceptable to claim that you are doing those things, you don't talk about them. So there's a lot of greenwashing. And I'll give you an example. BlackRock and I can't remember the name of the other asset manager lost significantly. They were removed from a Dutch pension fund's asset management. They had this Dutch pension fund has a lot of asset managers. And the question was why? And they gave a very, how they phrase some of these corporate communications, people know how, they don't meet the conditions, something like that. But everybody knew that it was because of certain things that those two entities had to say in response to the country that they live in, especially when you are getting sued in several states, multiple lawsuits by red state attorney generals. You will start making statements. That doesn't mean they are not still paying attention. And that's why I think it's very, very important that we don't use, as they say in my language, we don't use another person's wristwatch to tell the time. The point is, it's time to do sustainability and take it as an integral part of strategy. Whatever other people are doing, because they need to cope in the environment, nobody's going to, if I was advising BlackRock, I won't say, oh, continue talking about sustainability when you are being sued in several red states and the government in power is a red government. So, I think it's just a lot of business wisdom that is happening, but an increasing amount of greenwashing is going on as well. Now, in response to Lolade's question, and I know Lolade, when you said you were Lolade, I was like, okay, I remember you, about what are the skill sets that I think that boards need to pay attention to. So I think boards need to understand sustainability. And I think the first thing is that as a board member, one of the first things is you have to have a willingness to learn. You cannot be, oh, I'm a lawyer, I don't know anything about carbon dioxide and all these carbon emission and scope 1 and scope 3. No, you have to be willing to learn. And actually when you learn it, you realize that you understand it. So that willingness to learn, I think, is the first quality of a board member. And then going out for companies to provide the training. You may have to have some of the board members even go as far as certifications. So, for example, you have the GRI Academy that gives also a fair number of courses that are very good quality. And I'm not saying that just because I'm affiliated with GRI. You have the IFRS Foundation certification for stage 1 and stage 2, after which you can call yourself FSA credentialed. Very, very high quality education. Our speaker today just spoke about some free certifications that boards can have. If you're in the construction industry, there's nothing wrong with 1 or 2 of your directors trying to get these certifications. So that training is also very important. Finally, stakeholder management skills. Very, very critical, because your stakeholders can change. Look at what happened in the US. The American companies were the greatest movers in net zero alliance for asset managers, net zero alliance for bankers. And one by one, they had to start, they are withdrawing or they are muting. All sorts of things that they did. So if you are, they needed to manage the stakeholder, the red government. They needed to manage that stakeholder, and they pivoted very quickly in order to manage that stakeholder. So another thing that a board needs to know is how you manage the stakeholder. And my position is that the stakeholder in Nigeria, the government being a major stakeholder, is saying a number of things. One, we want the reporting. There's now a carbon market, the carbon market framework has been released October 2025, and in the recent past, the NCC has come out and said quite a number of things about it. I don't think that it's been activated, but maybe there are people in the room that know more than me. So there's that stakeholder is giving you certain indications. If you are a board member and you understand stakeholder management, which you should, then you know that you cannot ignore sustainability now. Finally, you have to understand your sources of capital, your finance. And you will find, since we're a net receiver of finance, that there is a lot of finance chasing after folks who are doing business sustainably. So I think, just to list again, 1, ability, willingness to learn, actual training in sustainability, which can go all the way up to certifications. 3, stakeholder management, very critical, which goes into materiality assessment. And 4, understanding your sources of finance and not leaving this source of finance on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So there's a question that Choromidayo asked, and I think that it's very critical. And funny enough, it was the training that I did yesterday with the board, because it always comes up on the board. What is the value of this ESG? And like you said, reputation, okay, what if, just in case, we want to make money, we don't care about the reputation? I mean, you understand what I mean? We're here for the money. Look, And then, our president asked, it's as if, we're all just doing this thing for compliance, because at the end of the day, you really can't pinpoint. So I put up a list. So I'm just going to read the list. Number 1, access to capital with pricing evidence from our own market. Nigerian sovereign green bonds were oversubscribed. And that easily just tells you that the market is saying ESG labeled paper is more valuable than the vanilla debt paper that you have around. That's number 1. Number 2, cost of capital and margin on concessional finance. Many of the DFIs are willing to give money. I mean, Tinu said it. There's so much money out there. But right now, particularly after COVID-19, it's been linked to certain criteria. And the criteria are all ESG related. So that's number 2. Number 3, operational cost reduction, the eco-efficiency dividend. So when you're able to measure your energy, water, your waste management, again, all of this add up to your OPEX. So when you talk about business, we want to see the numbers. Like I said to people, you talk about sustainability, please tell a business officer what the numbers say. Talk about the money end of it. What is it going to save me? We're talking of CapEx, but I'm saying to you, if you're able to identify these core areas, you're going to see the savings on your OPEX. Number 4, risk-adjusted value, avoided loss. I'm saying that ESG reduces the tail. You have fewer environmental failures because you've tracked your risk already. You know where the issues will be. For a mining company, for instance, I always say to them, part of the problem, we see it even in the oil and gas. I dealt with so many oil and gas companies, having to help them with their community issues. You start in the middle. Don't start in the middle. You must do an impact assessment. First of all, what are the issues on ground? You can't come into a community and expect that, yes, we've spoken to the chiefs, we spoke to the men, we spoke to the women. No. Have you done your own impact assessment? You need to do that. Then what is your rehabilitation and resettlement policy? If you don't have that policy, you don't engage that policy, you will always have to do CSR to keep the people going. And that is all your medicals, all your football. You will keep doing it to the end of time. Those things are good, but they are actually financially draining. This is reality. I mean, we've been in this, we understand how it works. The people are not as greedy as the organizations have made them. If you show us that you have the money to spend, we will give you something to spend the money on. The 4th thing is market access and revenue growth. We've seen it increasingly. It's not negotiable. For Nigerian importers, what I wrote here, there's this EU carbon border adjustment mechanism. Buyer quotes from multinationals like Unilever, Nestle, AB InBev. I was with the board of AB InBev a couple of weeks ago, and this was a conversation that was very clear. Organizations that are very clear on what they are doing are seeing the benefits clear, and they can point it out to you. It is beyond reputation. Reputation is absolutely necessary, but if you're talking at a business level, we say, what's the business case for sustainability? You must be able to show the numbers. And then, of course, the final one here that I wrote was the talent economics. You're going to find lower attrition. An ESG metric that is being clearly looked at now is the what we call the what do they call it now? Human capital indices. It's one of the clear issues that will be in the assurance for the ISSA 5000 assurance framework. Your human capital clearly needs to show over a period of time what is the attrition rate. If you lost a particular percentage of people in 2000, and then in 2005 it got better, and then in 2020 something changed, we are going to track that trajectory and be able to say what's going on in your human capital. So no longer is human capital just one of those. It is now a risk and an asset issue. So these are core reasons why ESG and sustainability is critical. Beyond your reputation, reputation is good, but look, it is about the numbers. It's about the figures. And that's why we say your CFO, your CRO must understand the issues. Any board that is still asking questions around the past, so how did we do in 2010? You're not asking about what are we going to be doing in 2030? What is our financials going to look like? ESG linked, sustainability induced. What will it be? Then that board is not ready, and that business is absolutely not ready.
Wow, wow, wow. I wish you could go on and on and on. Do we have any questions from our virtual participants? If none, closing statements. What? Okay, and that will be your last statement. Thank you. Oh, okay, there's one question. Okay, please, let's have it. Let's have it. My phone is not here. Just read it out from there.
So it says, good afternoon, distinguished panelists. Ms. Awe, please, you mentioned data as one strong ESG leadership initiative. How can organizations address data vacuum or even weak data systems?
Data vacuum, data systems. Weak data systems.
Okay, so I'll answer that question. What I was pestering Hilda to speak about is the fact that Generation Alpha is coming into the workforce. They're coming into the workforce depending on whether you think they started in 2013 or 2011. And they're very different from us. They want to work for companies that have purpose. And that is your workforce. So it's not even a question again about whether you want to. And I like the fact that the HR person that I know in the room is nodding horizontally. Because so you may not be able to even find people to work for you if you are not paying attention to these issues. Because that's a different generation. So I just thought I should do that little. Okay, so the question about data. Data requires you to actually, to get the right data, you actually have to plug all your processes. So what are your processes end to end? And what type of data is going into those processes? And what type of data are you producing? So let's talk about producing data. What type of, how much, if you want to say, okay, we want to become more energy efficient, we're just buying diesel. And we're seeing diesel as an operating expense. This thing is just on the, how are you tracking from month to month and what happens in those months as to why diesel has gone very high or has gone very low? So you have a baseline, and it doesn't have to be anything outlandish. It's just simple tracking of all your energy use. And then you start using that data that you get to inform decisions. So if, for example, you find out that you are using 100 watts of electricity, I don't know enough, you want to reduce it to, as the speaker said, half, 50 is renewable and 50 is not renewable. It is because of the data that you have that showed you over the last 3 years, I was actually generating and using 100 watts every first quarter. So first quarter, I want to reduce, and I understand what happens in first quarter. Maybe it's because the finance people stay late in the office, and so I have to run my gen, whatever. It may be then that you want to use technology. Okay, don't stay late in the office. Take technology that you can use to work remotely. So it informs decisions, so that I'm not switching on my gen. I'm not switching on you are in a high-rise building. I'm not leaving a lift on for you, and that lift can only work with the big gen. You are doing all that, connecting the data. That's what you are doing. Now, the point is, I've described a very simple thing. Ultimately, where you want to take it is that you want to use technology to automate your data. And that's where we're not going to go into that today. The use of AI within the context of ESG, the use of sustainability technology, which is at the present time very expensive. And maybe those are areas, again, where industry and cross-industry, people can come together to decide whether they will use backbones of technology that they deploy in their own businesses to reduce the cost of these data tracking technology.
Thank you very much. So is that your closing statement? Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Usa, your closing statement. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. So to close, like I said, compliance is the floor of ESG.
Mm-hmm.
It should lead to a behavioral change, like we said,
mm-hmm.
on our C-suite leadership,
mm-hmm.
to see ESG as more of a business strategy. They should integrate it into strategy, business strategy to de-risk the business. And like Dr. Oni said, it should also be seen as a value creation tool, not just a checkbox, not just a CSR operation. And leadership should also have an understanding of what ESG is, because it makes it very easier to lead what you understand and measure, to be accountable to what you know. So basically, if that incorporation and integration of ESG is in the strategy of it, it makes it very easier. It's not a cumbersome operation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So basically, they should understand that it's a major value creation tool for their business.
Thank you very much. Dr. Abimbola, 1 minute.
I think for me, particularly around the topic around strengthening ESG leadership, I think that it is very critical that the Institute has done this. And I think there has to be a way to be able to create some level of closing the skills gap for directors on boards. I sit on a lot of boards in terms of as a facilitator of conversations, strategy sessions and all that. And it is still a very huge gap that needs to be closed. A lot of directors don't think it is very important. They see it still as a peripheral issue. They just want to talk about the financials. And I think that until we begin to see that change within the board, it will then trickle down to the organizations, as it were. So I think that the Institute has done very well in putting this together, but please go further in terms of ensuring that there is some level of, again, compliance is good, but also some level of, I don't know what to call it, because at some point, really, where with the IFRS 1 and 2, we're going into the mandatory reporting period. And so what happens to if it is what ESCO brings for you as a board, you don't have the critical knowledge to be able to ask questions. So ask management certain questions. Where are those metrics from? Like Tino said, we're buying diesel, but now we've reduced. So where did you get these metrics from? Who's tracking it? Can we see the evolution of the tracking of this metrics? There's nothing like that. Somebody's just picking up from the numbers of, oh, we bought 50,000 diesel this time, and then yesterday we bought 20,000. That's our metrics. No, because we've seen that happen as well. You know, so oh no, do you even track your solar? Do you track the emissions that are coming from your solar? You know, the installations and all of that. So quite a good one, but then there's really a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Please, let's put our hands together for this panel. I'm a woman of faith, so I'm not going to say a lot. I'll just say, you have heard, go and do. All right? But this is not the end of the conversation. It's ongoing. You will agree with me that it's an ongoing conversation, and nothing is cast in stone. As the business continues to evolve, demand is placed on us to also evolve with regards to our practices in the system. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the Institute, I'd like to thank my distinguished panelists for a very insightful experience this afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Thank you also. You've been fantastic with your questions, with your contributions, and with your attention. I didn't see anybody dozing. Thank you all very much. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. That was a very rich discussion. And I guess yes, please, we have a plaque for you. I don't know, do we want to, can we quickly do that? It's actually ready, madam. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I won't take too much time so that it doesn't become an ESG issue. So really on behalf of the CIoD, we really want to thank you. Every time I've listened to you talk or contribute or whatever, I've always ended up being very, very impressed. And today is not an exception. Thank you very much, and we look forward to having you again soon.
Okay, I think we should just take for all the panelists. Yeah, can we take a picture with you, ma'am?
I feel very bad. I'm so sorry.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Because some of our panelists need to go, can we kindly have their plaques as well? They all need to go, if you don't mind. Yes, please. Who's that for?
Moderator.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm not surprised. This is the lady who kept me in order for about 9 years, I'm sure. And when she decided she was leaving the society, little did we know that she was like a masquerade. She had gone inside and she came out bigger, better, and stronger. So we want to thank you for moderating this excellent session. It's been very enlightening. And again, we look forward to having you again. Thank you.
Mr. Benson, thank you.
Mr. Benson Olayinka. Yes. I know one Mr. Kole Osho, who is very close to your CEO. So he tells me a lot about the mine and all the issues. But you guys have done a great job in managing all those contending issues. And I know that you are even looking to expand and do even bigger things. So it's been a pleasure having you, for you giving us the insights, especially as far as gold mining is concerned and the various issues that you have to deal with. So again, like every other person, we thank you so much for being with us today. Dr. Ini Abimbola, now I know. Anytime I get to a board and they are acting, I say, I know why. I will call mommy for you. You know, you spoke with so much passion about the subject. So anybody who is not a believer who sits down and listens to you will quickly be converted. But like you rightly identified, there's still a lot of work to do. I sit with many quote unquote Nigerian big men, and I know that for a lot of them, Oga, this your grammar is too much. What do we invest? Somebody built a huge tank and didn't even want to get approval. So at the end of the day, after they will come and collect money. So let me just know how much you have to use to settle them. All this story about EIA or whatever was all stories to him. So we want to thank you. We will definitely call on you again, and we'll look to you being a very solid experts in this area to help us, to navigate the various corners and challenges as we move along. Thank you very much. The man who said I spent a lot of time trying to do research about how to pronounce your name properly. You see, preparation, you have to prepare. So, your speech set the ball rolling and really showed us the direction, and the panelists, I think, did an excellent job in building on what the foundation you laid. So again, we've come to know that you are a very solid expert in this area too. And hopefully we can look towards you for helping us out in the future. So thank you very much for coming. Should I give this one? Or I shouldn't give? Am I allowed to give it to the...
Yes, please.
Well, I'm allowed. We have depended on you, and you are becoming a staple supporter of the institute. So how can you do that? What the institute is to you is what you make of it. If you don't get involved and be part of it, then the institute will not deliver for you. So you are an example of somebody who has been helping to build the institute and helping it to grow. So it will deliver even more value to you. So congratulations and thank you for a job well done.
Thank you so much.
Hear them speaking to the fact that we need more integration, we need to do more. We debated a little bit about what are the benefits and all that. So what I would say in setting the context for the call to action is that, ESG is in progress in Nigeria, but it's not yet transformational. So there's a lot of work that we have to do from, directors on board, the board, and, we will support you in CIoD in going along that journey. It's widely acknowledged. It's actually a buzzword now. So maybe that's why we're all here. Very sexy, right? So you hear ESG, hear ESG, but it's inconsistently embedded. And I'm speaking as a practitioner of many years, maybe over 1 decade or 2 decades, or I've been in from CSR to where I am right now. Again, you hear them speak about reporting. So there's a lot of reporting, but reporting is not impact, right? So there's a lot of green washing, is not impact. So reporting can also be PR, but what we want is actually value. ESG brings value. If you do it well, it brings value, and we must drive for that value. So it's often CSR-led. You heard them speak about that. It's one desk somewhere. It's all around your business. It has to be integrated into your operations, but it's not yet board-led. So, and we have to bring it on the board. I was sitting on a board of a startup, agri-tech startup for 2 years in Ghana. And I often brought ESG into the conversations. It was very financial heavy. But the problem is, if that ESG, especially for an agro-based company, is taken out, that's the end of that company. If you deal with climate change issues that are affecting your crops, right? If you don't have crops produce to supply and you've gotten demands, right? That's the end. That's the end. But it was very much somebody bringing it into the conversation. If you have human rights issues, child labor issues, your customers who want fair labor integrated will not do business with you, So regulatory pressure is increasing, is rising, right? But execution lags. So we don't have an awareness problem. We don't have an awareness gap, but we have an execution gap. So as directors, you need to understand that. So why does it matter? We spoke a lot about that. You need to understand that ESG does not have to just be base. We do in my company what we call sustainability as a growth driver. I have a project right now. It's a social impact project, but we're talking financials. It has to make money, it has to be viable. But as viable as it must be, is also, making social and environmental impact. That's a huge part of it. But I can't go to my board and say, it's just cost. Now, what happens as a practitioner? We know what happens. When you do a lot of cost, if it's not regulatory mandated, like Mr. Onwusa's sector, where, there's regulation, so you have to do it. It becomes something that will be, your budget will be cut. You'll be the last person speaking, like Ini has said. You understand? So you must bring value. It's a business. So as a board member who understands the really intricate values coming from ESG, and I was in a company, another multinational, where we're having an investors call, and some question came up about ESG on an investors call that people would not ordinarily, be talking, but it's coming up. Investors are, they're looking for it. So the cost of inaction is rising if directors do not take action, because like Ini said so well, capital is shifting towards ESG aligned businesses. And you just have to think about it. There's a lot of capital coming to emerging economies, Africa. They need to understand what the risks are, environmental risk, because it's not the same as in developed countries, right? Your social risks, license to operate from your community. Are they going to shut down your factory for a long time? And then how's your board? What are the governance, your governance policies? So regulation and global partners demand compliance. So your investors, they demand compliance. And for some of us who work in multinationals, you have to do it, right? It's a must, and you have to go above board. Climate and social risk are now business risk, fully integrated. And then the reputation that he spoke about, that's coming from all these things, and not just the feel-good activities, CSR activities, actually adds value, right, to your company. So ESG is no longer optional. It is a determinant of survival and growth. We call it sustainability as a growth driver. You must drive growth. So the call to action, let's start about your role, the role of directors. You must move ESG to the boardroom, right? It has to become conversational. But we ourselves must show what the value is. We must make sure that we're getting, as practitioners, as whether it's a CSR desk or whatever, don't talk things that is just cost related alone. So we must embed ESG into corporate strategy, they said that, and not just side initiatives. We must link ESG to risk management and long-term value. You want to be resilient. You want to be here for the long haul. You must then demand measurable KPIs. So I have a meeting tomorrow on my social impact project. My KPIs, I have all my KPIs fully measurable. I must present, and not just narratives, not just nice to feel good kind of, we call it fluffiness, right? When we're talking to board of directors. So we must ensure accountability at executive level. What the board prioritizes, management executes. So what must change now, starting now? One, right? Make ESG a board agenda item. It's not a quarterly reporting thing. It must be a board agenda item. The ESG, right? Tie it to business value. Tie it to growth. Don't be fluffy. When you're fluffy, you'll be the last on the agenda, or they will take you out, right? Growth, cost efficiency, and risk reduction. They spoke to that. Invest in data and measurement. Tinu spoke to that. You cannot manage what you measure. Strengthen value chains. I think it was Mr. Somebody spoke about value chains. Your value chain matters. So what you're doing, especially if you're a big company, and you think it's just you alone, what is happening along your value chain, really matters. So impact sits beyond your factory. So they were talking about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So those scopes go beyond just your own business into your value chain. Then collaborate and not compete. And we'll do that. We'll help to build collaborative initiatives in CIoD. Industry-wide challenges need collective action. And that way, as a practitioner, I must say that, sustainability can be expensive. But then when we come and have collective action, right, it can reduce the cost. So, and I just wanted to point out something quickly, which we must do. And Tinu spoke about that. Don't copy and paste. Do Nigeria. Do Nigeria. Don't copy and paste. Again, on that investors call, they asked us whether we're just copying the global agenda, or we were, doing. So what I said was, yes, we do have a global agenda, but it must be locally relevant. So leadership question, what's the leadership question? It is not, do we understand ESG? ESG is now a buzzword, everybody's talking about it. But are we willing to lead the change it requires? So final call, start with one decision at your next board meeting. Move from policy to integrated execution. The spoke is operational, is everywhere in your business, right? It has to be integrated. Lead with courage and accountability, and then change your perspective from being cost related to being a growth driver. So when you're speaking to the board, I want to hear value. I want to hear something that hits my bottom line, right? And so from CIoD, we remain committed to advancing ESG advocacy and thought leadership. We will provide capacity building platforms for directors and executives, and we will continue to engage policymakers to strengthen governance and sustainability frameworks. So please let us act and not just speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. So food for thought to all our directors. Where is ESG sitting in your director and operational governance? I think that's what you need to think about. So to close us out, we have none other than our CEO and Director General, Dr. Taiwo Nolas Alausa, NCIOD. There's no plan. They don't have a platform. There's no platform.
Thank you. I hope you send me any invoice. Our moderator and our former chair. We can't. Mr. President, sir, permit me to stand on the existing protocols. But to start with, especially thanking you for this. I know that when we go into the office, you tell me this is impact. And I'm also really proud that this is happening. And it's also opened my eyes to the fact that the institute is blessed with a whole lot of people, that all our panelists today are members of the institute. That is something worth it. And I've taken special notes that, why? Because about a month ago, we were looking for experts for the ESG committee and things like that. We have them in-house. Why are we not using them? So we're taking note of this, and we'll be getting back to a whole lot of them with regards to some other things that we want to do, because we also want to be fully ESG compliant. I'm glad the team is here, and they really enjoyed it. So I want to thank you all for being here, and especially our distinguished panelists. Though some of them have left, Dr. Ini Abimbola, MCIOD, Ms. Sinuawe, MCIOD, Mr. Benson Ousa, Mrs. Oreva Atanya, for a vigorous and enlightening discussion. And also our keynote speaker. Unfortunately, he's not here, but I really, really enjoyed his speech, Dr. Somi Olowoshile. I hope I could pronounce it right. Thank you, sir. And then also our able call to action speaker, Dr. George Oluwasoromidayo. Thank you. And our facilitators, Mrs. Hilda Unko, Mrs. Folashade, our dear friend here and everything. We really appreciate this. But most especially, I want to thank Beja Paints, or Beja Paints rather, because this program was almost going to, yes, and they came to the rescue, and Segilola Resources. Really appreciate that. And we also want to extend our hand of fellowship for other things, because there's still so many other things on, not just on sustainability, but other programs that we have for the year. We'll be coming to you in due course. But really thank you. And I've also we've painted the secretariat, but there are other ways by which we are going to. I'm going to convince the president that CIoD house must be Beja, but the branded Beja paints. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. We're going to do that. So I thank you all. And especially, sorry, ma'am, because I understand she's still online. Our first vice president, our mommy, she's joined. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here because this is one of our babies too. She sits on the committee. She chairs the committee on advocacy, and she's not there. And also our over 110 people online who are watching us. We really appreciate that. And thank you all for being here. And thank you all, and hope to see you again next week. Next week and another week, because something is always happening in CIoD. Thank you very much.